Hello friends, this is my ministry. My wife and I moved into our new home, the first house we'd ever bought, during the epidemic. It would be 2 more years before my father came to visit us, largely out of curiosity on his part. There was a period of estrangement with my parents, who had become almost completely different people from who they were when I was growing up. They had changed from being reasonable liberal people who took life as it came, and had become slowly poisoned after decades of reading newspapers and watching the 24-hour news cycles. They were now often angry, resentful and judgmental of the entire world. My mother refused to visit. During my father's unexpected visit, my wife was unfortunately away, and I, for my part, had work commitments. So he was primarily hosted by my amiable and jovial mother-in-law. After several trips out and about town and the surrounding villages, my father began to relax. During the evenings, I was happy to see that he was happy and enjoying himself. On the last day of his visit, I entered the kitchen to find them both talking matter-of-factly about what they thought might happen when we die. My mother-in-law said that she didn't think there was anything, and often found religious people to be hypocritical and sanctimonious, and therefore disregarded all concepts coming from organised religion. My father, who is a lapsed Catholic, went one further and said that he thought all religion was just man-made bovine excrement. Then my mother-in-law turned to me and said, "So, what do you think happens when we die?" Bizarrely, I had been contemplating life and death only a week or two prior to their visit. This isn't as odd as it may sound. My house renovations kept me busy, and my mind often wanders, and I would just find myself suddenly contemplating all sorts of random topics. I would turn them over in my mind as I painted hammered nails, cut wood, or steamed wallpaper. I had wanted to say something meaningful, as I did have what I thought was a few novel perspectives about the nature of consciousness. But in truth, I knew it would take too long for me to explain my theories to them, and was worried that they would simply sound outlandish. I could already hear my father's derision in my mind. In the end, I merely said that they might be right, but actually, who knows? The real answer could be anything. They shrugged in agreement, and the day went on as normal. Weeks after, the thought kept coming back to me. I kept hearing the question repeat in my mind, and I felt compelled to formulate my own personal theory of everything. I won't bore you with the details, but I will say the following for context. Like my father and my mother-in-law, I had long dismissed organised religion for all the usual reasons that can be summed up by saying it seemed largely contradictory and petty, and concerned mainly with very human and earthly things. I happily believed in the historical reality of Jesus as a person, and I liked his teachings on a personal level. But I believed that organised religion had hijacked and twisted his ministries. I also reasoned that just because human beings had invented a wealth of flawed dogma, it didn't logically follow that there wasn't actually a God. It was just that there seemed to be little evidence in support of it, at least as far as I was aware of. And while the likes of Richard Dawkins and Sam Harris put forth very well-reasoned and articulate arguments, I was left with largely the same view, that they too looked at things from a far too anthropomorphic perspective. A God wouldn't be limited to or constricted by the mundane human world. It could, after all, possibly Lovecraftian in scale and scope, and there could be myriads of unseen realities and life forms lying between the entity and us here. So I'd finally settled many years ago at the position of being an agnostic. This is often viewed as a very unsatisfactory position by many, as it is seen as fence-sitting. But you haven't seen or experienced anything personally, then why commit to an answer? I had, though, recently come around to believing that some form of reincarnation was highly probable. The Earth teems with life of every sort, and each life form is an independent consciousness. From the largest, say an elephant or a whale, to the smallest, such as an ant or a gnat. Something has to be that consciousness. When our bodies rot into the earth, are we not physically recycled? Why not then our consciousness? Is the atheist argument for eternal darkness free from any more problems upon death not just the inverse of the religious belief in a paradise? Do they not both fall under the category of Santa Claus for adults? Is it not far more likely that the truth of reality is going to be highly complex, open to a multitude of interpretations depending on which perspective you view it from, and largely neutral in regards to an overall value judgment? I recall the day, a few months later, when I was building a bonfire and I mentally formulated my ideas into a cohesive whole and put a bow on them, saying to myself, "That's it, I'm done. I've looked at everything, I know from multiple angles, and this is my best guess as to how the universe actually works, but I'll never know for sure one way or the other until I actually die. So now I give up." It was time to ponder a new topic. The next day, I was looking for a YouTube video to watch whilst having my lunch. At this time, my YouTube channel subscriptions were not remotely theological in nature. They were mainly concerned with history, music, film and politics. Nestled on the top line was a colourful video thumbnail entitled NDE Questions Answered. I vaguely recalled having heard the term near-death experience a long time ago. I remembered it had been dismissed by commentators as just an odd phenomena of people hallucinating when they were clinically dead. Intrigued, I watched the video and was shocked at what was being said by straight-faced people. These people looked and sounded very authentic and believable. I quickly decided on another to see if the same shocking things were being said, then another. And they were. All these pleasant people from all faiths and no faiths were saying that there was indeed a life after death, and that it had a direct correlation to our lives here on this planet. It was the start of over 16 months of deep diving investigation that is still ongoing into the world of theology, mystical experiences and all sorts of unusual phenomena, which, as it turns out, all have significant overlaps and in fact corroborate one another. My current view of consciousness, reality and theology is now far removed from everything that I was taught at school, told by religious authorities, or is understood by society at large. I have also discovered that the answers to all the big questions are directly knowable in this life and can be experienced firsthand by anyone so long as they are prepared to look deep within themselves and employ the correct teachings and techniques, and so long as they have ears to listen and a mind to discern, and so long as they have the moral courage and mental fortitude to face the truth, no matter how uncomfortable or unflattering it may turn out to be. If you can meet this challenging criteria, then it's time to wake up. I thank you for listening and I wish you well. Until next time.